Assalamualaikum and hi. My name is NURSYUHADA binti Muhammad Salleh and matrix number A20A1844. Our group, which is group 7 from class APT 2073L3, choose the company Apollo Food Holdings Berhad and Chocoland Holdings Berhad for our assignment. I was assigned to make an assignment videos and I will introduce my group member, namely Hana, Lydia, Mimi, myself, Syuhada, IMRAN, SYATIRAH, and the lastly is NAJLA.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Mimi ATIRAH NAZIHAH binti ROSLI and my metric number is A20A1444. In my part, I will explain about financial management. What is financial management? Financial management is only focused on how deciding how much and what type of asset to own, how to increase the capital needed, to buy assets, and how to run a company to maximum profits. It is divided into first, capital market. Capital market is interest rate, stock price, and bonds are determined. It also relates to financial institution and stockbroker, banks, and investment banks as well as related institutions. Second is investment, related to stock and bonds, including the security analysis, portfolio theory, and market analysis. Then I will to explain what is the importance of financial management. The importance of financial management is buying necessities, paying a various type of utilities bills, paying a various services subscribed to by an individual. Where does this money come from? Most of it is come from salaries or wages or from the profit of the business. Only a small amount earns money from donation such as gift, grants, and wills. Second, for saving and investment. Income and expenses must be managed properly so that the individual is not entangled in a financial problem, that is when expenses exceed income. Third, develop thinking power. Financial management knowledge is intended to help individuals or organizations to make investment decisions, financing decision, and asset management. That's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Imran and I am about to continue this presentation, which is company background. The Coca-Cola story began in the Klang Valley with two brothers selling deep fried snacks and banana fritters. Other brothers then joined them and they moved upstream in their business activities to benefit from higher margins. Mud Food Enterprise at Neighborhood was established in 1980 as a producer and distributor. The brothers found success in the mid-1980s when they discovered a market potential for the production of polytube beverage, allowing the company to enter the global market for the first time, exporting to the Middle East. Due to commercial development, LB Food Sdn was established on 23rd January 1984 as the group major trading arm for distributing house brand processed and preserved goods and fruit both domestically and internationally. Meanwhile, for this slide, I will explain about Apollo Company. Apollo Food Holding Berhad was founded as a private limited company on March 5, 1994. On September 8, 1994, the firm went public and was listed in the consumer category of the Bursa Malaysia. The company was based in Johor Bahru, Malaysia. The company operates in two segments and investment and manufacturing. Apollo Food Industry Sdn Bhd is a manufacturing subsidiary, whereas HAP Food Industry Sdn Bhd is an investment holding company. Keynote Capital Sdn Bhd is the ultimate holding company. The company creates and sells chocolate confectionery and layer cakes. The company's goal is to always meet customer demands and expectations by utilizing cutting-edge equipment and technology. Quality and innovation are company's strengths, which are achieved by establishing, maintaining, and improving the management system. Second, in order to remain competitive, use world-class wafer and layer cake machinery as well as upgrade and improve. In addition, the organization ensures halal certificate quality assurance methods.
Assalamualaikum and hi. I'm LYDIA HANI SURAYA binti MOHHAMMAD ZAMLI, number matric A20A2144. I will continue with horizontal analysis of Cocolan Food Holding Berhad in 2018, 2019 and 2020. As shown in the slide, this is the graph of liquidity ratios since year 2018 to 2019 to 2020 of the company. In the interpretation of current ratio and quick ratio from 2018 to 2020 are getting better, but not for the net working capital ratios. It shows a decrease as much 2,000 million 434,510 ringgit from 2019 to 2020, even though it increased at first from 2018 to 2019. Next is the trend for activity ratios. There is many ups and downs from 3 years in the ratios that showing the better and worse for interpretation. For example, average collection period ratio showing increase from 2018 to 2019 as much as 13 days, but turned to getting worse from 98 days to 76 days from 2019 to 2020 respectively. While for account receivable turnover, it starts with 4.26 times in 2018 and decreased to 3.70 times in 2019. However, it is getting better in 2020 when raised to 4.03 times. All ratios in activity ratios showing that the worst, but not for account receivable turnover. We go through with solvency or leverage ratio. Both debt ratio and debt to equity results getting worse in interpretation. It's not showing increase-decrease from years to years, but it really show only the decrease from 2018 to 2020 in both ratios. This will affect the company reputation if this problem cannot handle well since it involving the debt. The last ratio for Cocolan Food Holding Berhad's horizontal analysis ratio is profitability ratio. By looking through the graph and result in table, we can see that gross profit margin, return on assets, and return on equity are showing increase and decrease from 2018 to 2020. That end up showing that it getting worse. Proudly, net profit margin still can maintain the increasing from 0.06% in 2018 to 0.12% in 2019 and continue raising up to 0.13% in 2020. This shows that the net profit This shows that the net profit margin ratio showing that they're getting better. That's all from me for horizontal analysis of Kokolen Food Holding Berhad in 2018 to 2020. Thank you.
My name is AZHANA binti AZUDIN. My metric number is A20A1670. I will talk about horizontal calculation Apollo Food Holding Berhad. There will be 4 categories discussed, which is horizontal analysis of liquidity ratios, activity ratios, solvency ratios, and profitability ratios. First and foremost, I will discuss the liquidity ratio. There are 3 key liquidity ratios, which is current ratio, quick ratio, and net working capital. As shown in the graph, the current ratio for 2018, 2019, and 2020 was calculated to be 7.17, 15.71, and 16.65 times respectively, and is improving. The current ratio raised from 2018 to 2020 as shown in the graph above. Next, Apollo Food Holding Berhad's quick ratio is deteriorating, falling from 64.27 to 14.11 in 2018 and 2019. It then rose slightly to 15.06 in 2020. As a result, Apollo Food Holdings Berhad's ability to use its current assets to repay its dwindling current liabilities is being called upon. Finally, the net working capital ratio fell sharply from RM122,669,629 in 2018 to RM142,981,010 in 2019, before rising again to RM147,178,268 in 2020. The decline of Apollo Food Holding Berhad and the decrease in net working capital indicate that the company requires more time to collect each of its debts. As a result, in 2019 and 2020, each of the companies will be inefficient and less liquid. The figure then depicts a horizontal analysis of activity ratios. We must examine 5 key activities, which is inventory turnover, average collection period, account receivable turnover, fixed asset, and total assets. To begin with, inventory turnover demonstrated that the ratio is decreasing year after year, reaching 10.1 times in 2018, 9.1 times in 2019, and 8.7 times in 2020. In 2019 and 2020, the decrease in Apollo Food Holdings Berhad inventory turnover ratios represent the company inefficiency in inventory management. Then, for 2018, 2019, and 2020, the average collection period ratio was found to be 71 days, 75 days, and 73 days respectively. The chart above shows that the average collection period ratio increased from 2018 to 2019 from 71 to 75 days, and then decreased to 73 days in 2020. As a result, the average for the abruptly declining collection period from 2019 to 2020 indicates that Apollo Food Holding Berhad collected all credit sale in less time, and Apollo Food Holding Berhad had more liquidity in 2019. Next, the account receivable turnover show that the ratio fell sharply from 5.09 times in 2018 to 4.79 times in 2019, and then increased to 4.9 times in 2020. Then decrease in accounts receivable turnover for Apollo Food Holding Berhad account suggests that the company needs more time to collect each of its debts. As a result, each of the companies will be inefficient and less liquid in 2019 and 2020. Furthermore, for the fixed asset turnover ratio of Apollo Food Holding Berhad decreased annually to 10.1 times in 2018, 1.25 times in 2019, and 1.21 times in 2020, as shown in the chart above. The sharp drop in 2019 resulted in inefficient use to fixed asset to generate the sales. Finally, total asset turnover showed that the ratio decreased and increased year after year with 0.57% in 2018, dropping to 0.53% in 2019. In 2020, there is at a 1.1% increase, which is a 0.65% increase. This indicates that Apollo Food Holding Berhad is in a good position in terms of inventory turnover ratio in 2019 and 2020. Furthermore, the figure discuss horizontal solvency ratio analysis. There are several critical activities, including debt ratio and debt equity. The debt ratio can also be expressed as a percentage or a decimal ratio of total debt to total assets. The graph above shows that Apollo Food Holdings Berhad debt ratio remains consistent from start to finish, remaining at 0.80 in 2018, 0.80 in 2019, and 0.80 in 2020. As a result, from 2018 to 2020, the firm debt ratio is increasing in a safe manner. The debt equity ratio is ratio of the company's total long-term debt to equity capital. According to the graph above, Apollo Food Holding Berhad's debt equity ratios increased by 0.01% in 2019 from 0.08% to 0.09%. In 2020, however, there was a 0.08% decrease, which was 0.01% less than the previous year. Finally, from 2018 to 2019, the debt to equity ratio increased, with a slight decrease in 2020. Finally, we have 4 activities for horizontal analyst profitability ratios, which is gross profit margin, net profit margin, return on assets, and return on equity. To begin, the gross profit margin of Apollo Food Holding Berhad is healthy from 2018 to 2020. The firm's gross profit margins are 0.28%, 0.33%, and 0.36% from 2018 to 2020 respectively. This demonstrates that Apollo Food Holding Berhad is improving. As we have seen, gross profit margin continue to rise year after year. As a result, the company has the highest ratios and can manage expenses to profit. In profit margin, calculations, net profit and net income are used interchangeably. Apollo Food Holding Berhad's net profit margin increased by 0.05% in 2019 from 0.07% to 0.12%, and it's worsening. However, in 2020, the rate will fall to 0.11%. As a result, we can conclude that sale profit increased from 2018 to 2019. Before declining slightly in 2020. Aside from that, Apollo Food Holding Berhad's term return on asset increased by 0.03% in 2019 from 0.04% to 0.07%. However, in 2020, the rate fell to 0.05%. As a result, we can conclude that sale profit increased from 2018 to 2019, but decreased slightly in 2020. This shows that Apollo Food Holding Berhad is deteriorating. Finally, according to the graph above, Apollo Food Holding Berhad's return on equity in 2018 was 0.04%, 0.07% in 2019, and 0.06% in 2020. As a result, we can conclude that with the highest ratio of 0.07% in 2019, investors can expect a higher dividend, while with the lowest ratio in 2018, investor can expect a lower dividend. And in 2020, it indicates that the firm will try to increase its net income or revenue to increase the yield on common share, and the interpretation is getting worse.
Assalamualaikum, my name is NAJLA KHALIDAH binti YAZID, number matric A20822241, want to present vertical analysis of Apollo Food and Cocoland. Based on the table given, this liquidity ratio shows in 2018, the current ratio of Apollo Food is 7.17 times, while Cocoland is 4.58 times. They show the difference is 2.59 times in that year. It shows the current ratio of Apollo Food is higher than Cocoland. Next is 2019. The current ratio of Apollo Food is 15.71 times, while Cocoland is 4.95 times. It shows the large differences of the amount on that year, which is 10.76 times. In 2020, the current ratio of Apollo Food is 16.65 times, while on the same year, the current ratio of Cocoland is 5.33 times. Also for the same years goes to 2019, have large differences that show is 11.43 times. Next is in 2018, the quick ratio that Apollo Food is 64.27 times, while the Cocoland's quick ratio is 3.65 times. That show the difference is 60.62 and show Apollo Food have the higher quick ratio in that year. In 2019, the current ratio of Apollo Food is 14.11 times, while Cocoland of quick ratio is 4.04 times, and that show the difference is 10.07 times. For the 2020 of quick ratio, Apollo is higher than Cocoland, which is 15.06 times, and the quick ratio of Cocoland is 4.13 times. They show the differences of two companies in 2020 is 10.93 times. Next is net work capital is a measure of company liquidity. Each present the difference between a company current asset and current liability. In 2018, the net working capital of Apollo Food is RM 1022 and 996,929, while Cocoland is RM 138,232,578. That show the difference is RM 15,235,000 15,002,035,649 in that year. It showed that the net working capital of Apollo Food is lower than Cocoland's. Next is 2019. The net working capital of Apollo Food is RM 142,981,010, while Cocoland is RM 152,744,639. It shows the difference of the amount on that year, which is RM 9,000 9,763,629. In 2020, the net working capital of Apollo Food is RM 147,178,268, while on the same year, the net working capital of Cocolands is RM 125,310,129. Also for this year have a large differences. That show is RM 21,868,139. Next is activity ratios. In 2018, the inventory turnover of Apollo Food is 10.10 times, while the Cocolands inventory turnover is 5.14 times. That show the difference is 4.96 and show Apollo Food have the higher inventory turnover in that year. In 2019, the inventory turnover of Apollo Food is 9.10 times, while Cocoland of inventory turnover is 5.14 times, and that show the difference is 3.96 times. For the 2020 of inventory turnover of Apollo Food is higher than Cocoland, which is 8.0 times, and the inventory turnover of Cocoland is 4.69 times. That show the difference of two companies in 2020 is 4.01 times. In 2018, the average collection period of Apollo Food is 71 days, while Cocoland is 85 days. That show the difference is 14 days in the year. It show that average collection period of Apollo Food is lower than Cocoland. Next is 2019. The average collection period of Apollo Food is 75 days, while Cocoland is 98 days. It shows the large differences of the amount on that day, which is 23 days. In 2020, the average collection period of Apollo Food is 73 days, while on the same year, the average collection period of Cocoland is 76 days, and the differences show is 3 days. Next is the account receivable turnover of Apollo Food is 5.09 times, and the comparison of Cocoland account receivable is 4.26 in 2018. The difference of accounts receivable turnover between two companies is 0.83 times. In 2019, the account receivable turnover of Apollo Food is 4.79 times, while Cocoland is 3.70 times, and the difference is 1.09 times. And for the last year of account receivable turnover for Apollo Food is 4.90 times, while account receivable of Cocoland is 4.7073 times, and the difference is 0.17 times. Next is in 2018, the fixed asset turnover of Apollo Food is 10 times, while Cocoland's is 5.42 times. That show the difference in is 4.68 times in that year. It shows that the fixed asset turnover of Apollo Food is higher than Cocoland. Next is 2019. The fixed asset turnover of Apollo Food is 1.25 times, while Cocoland is 1.76 times. The differences of the amount that year, which is 0.51 times. In 2020, fixed asset turnover of Apollo Food is 1.21 times, while on the same year, that fixed asset turnover of Cocoland is 1.31 times, and the small difference, which is 0.1 time. In 2018, the total asset turnover of Apollo Food is 0.57 times, while Cocoland is 1.74 times. The difference is 1.17 times. And Apollo showed a lower total asset turnover in that year. In 2019, the total asset turnover of Apollo Food is 0.53 times, while Cocoland is 0.61 times. The difference is 0.0 times. is 0.08 times. For the 2020 of Apollo is higher than Cocoland, which is 1.21 time, and the fixed asset turnover of Cocoland is 0.60. That show the difference of two company in 2020 is 0.61 times. Solvency ratios. The debt ratio of Apollo Food is 0.08%, and the comparison of Cocoland's debt ratio is 0.16% in 2018. The difference of between two companies is 0.08%. In 2019, the debt ratio of Apollo Food is 0.08%, same goes to 2018, while Cocoland's is 0.15%, and the difference of the company is 0.07%. And for the last year of debt ratio for Apollo Food is 0.08%, same with 2018 and 2019, while debt ratio of Cocoland is 0.10%. The difference of two companies is 0.02%. In 2018, the debt of equity of Apollo Food is 0.08%, while the Cocoland debt to equity is 0.19%. That show the difference of the percentage, which is 0.11%. Next is 2019, the debt to equity ratio of Apollo Food is 0.9%, while Cocoland is 0.18%, and the difference of two companies is 0.10%. The calculate is 0.18 and minus 0.09. Last but not least, of the debt equity in 2020 of Apollo Food is 0.08%, while debt of equity Cocoland is 0.12%. That show the difference is 0.04. For the last slide is profitability ratios. In 2018, the gross profit margin of Apollo Food is 0.28%, while Cocoland is 0.36%. That show the difference is 0.08% in that year. It shows that the gross profit of Apollo Food is lower than Cocoland's. Next is 2019. The gross profit margin of Apollo Food is 0.33%, while Cocoland is 0.41%. It shows small differences of the amount on that year, which is 0.08%. In 2020, the gross profit margin of Apollo Food is 0.36%, while on the same year of Cocoland is 0.33%. And for this year, the difference show that is 0.03%. In 2018, the net profit margin of Apollo Food is 0.07%, while the Cocoland net profit margin is 0.06%. That show the difference is 0.01%, and show Apollo Food in that year and in that year. In 2019, the net profit margin of Apollo Food is 0.12%, while Cocoland same percentage with Apollo Food Company. For the 2020 of net profit of margin of Apollo Food, which is 0.11%, and the net profit margin of Cocoland is 0.13%. The difference of two companies in 2020 is 0.02%. In 2018, the return on asset of Apollo Food is 0.04%, while Cocoland is 0.11%. The show difference is 0.07%, and show Apollo Food has the lower return on asset in that year. In 2019, the return on asset of Apollo Food is 0.07%, while Cocoland is 0.12%, and show the difference 0.05. For the 2020 of return on asset of Apollo Food is lower than Cocoland, which is 0.05%, and the return on asset of Cocoland is 0.07. The difference of two companies is 0.02%. In 2018, the return on equity of Apollo Food is 0.04, while Cocoland is 0.08%. Show the difference of that company 0.04%. It showed the return on equity lower. Apollo Food is lower than Cocoland. Next is 2019. The return on equity of Apollo Food is 0.07, while Cocoland is 0.14%. The difference on that year, which is 0.07%. The return on equity of Apollo Food is 0.06, while on the same year of Cocoland, 0.08%. Also for this year, have difference show is 0.02%. That's all from me. Thank you.
My name is SYATIRAH binti MOHHAMMAD SAYUTI, metric number A20A1788. I want to present about conclusion. In conclusion, our group can conclude that Cocoland Holdings Berhad is a good performing rather than Apollo Food Holdings Berhad from year 2018 to 2020. From the financial ratios that being calculated, Cocoland Holdings Berhad also is better than Apollo Food Holdings Berhad. Are not just below normal range of current ratio. That means Cocoland Holdings Berhad is ability to pay its short-term obligations on that time. Apollo Food Holdings reserve will not be sufficient to meet its debt commitments. Next, quick ratio is an indicator of a company's short-term liquidity position and measure a company ability to meet it in short-term obligation. Based on the vertical analysis, Apollo Food shows the higher than Cocoland Holdings. Cocoland Holdings has a better profitability ratio with a higher operational and percentage profit margin to shareholders than Apollo Food Holdings. Last but not least, Apollo Food Holdings has a lower debt ratio on assets than Cocoland Holdings Berhad. This shows that Cocoland Holdings Berhad has a higher debt ratio on assets, and Cocoland Holdings has a higher ratio than Apollo Food.